Looking back, the emotional death of my marriage to Clara wasn't a catastrophe. It was a slow, controlled system failure. My name is Ethan. I work in logistics, moving variables from one point to another efficiently. Clara and I had a partnership, not a passion. We balanced two incomes, 2 cars, and a 4-bedroom house. It was a comfortable equation. For a long time, the only variable I couldn't track was her. Her voice had the same frequency for saying, "I love you," as it did for, "The trash needs to go out." When she started taking late-night calls in the garage, I felt nothing. When the excuse shifted from client demands to financial compliance reports, I simply filed the data point. It was evidence of distance, a deficit in the emotional ledger. It wasn't pain. It was math. I had been waiting for the infidelity. I predicted it with 90% certainty 3 months before it happened. What I couldn't predict, what no algorithm could have prepared me for, was the identity of the person in the parking spot next to hers. My first action wasn't grief, it was surveillance. I am not the kind of man to rifle through phone records or demand tearful confessions. That's inefficient and messy. I deal in verifiable data. Clara's constant need for seclusion was the first variable that needed a hard value. I told her I was installing a new GPS tracker on her silver sedan, citing a recent uptick in suburban car thefts. She barely looked up from her tablet. "Fine, Ethan, just send me the confirmation email." That was her standard tone. Distracted competence. The tracker was subtle. It reported location every 5 minutes, along with acceleration metrics. For 2 weeks, the data was boringly consistent. Home, office tower downtown, home. The noise of her life was louder than the signal of my suspicion. But then came Tuesday. Clara said she was going to a late, mandatory meeting for a new consulting merger. At 8:47 p.m., the sedan pinged its location 40 minutes outside our suburban perimeter. The location was not a corporate campus, it was an anonymous street corner, adjacent to a motel sign, blinking red and yellow through the rain. I drove there immediately. I didn't take the fastest route. I took the most discreet route, the one with the lowest traffic density and the most shadows. I was moving from hypothesis to proof. This wasn't about catching her in the act. It was about replacing a known unknown with a known known. The place was called the Sunburst Inn. The irony was cold. It was the kind of motel where the curtains never quite closed and the neon sign was held together by duct tape. It was beneath her, I thought. Clara preferred 5-star hotels and imported coffee. This was a deviation, another variable that didn't fit the profile of her usual precision. I parked 3 blocks away, cut the engine, and walked. In the small sodium-lit parking lot, I found it instantly. The familiar silver sedan, her vanity plate, C4RA, tucked between a pickup truck and a black, high-end SUV. The car was parked crookedly, almost in haste. The lights of the room unit above were off, but I knew she was inside. I walked to within 20 feet of the car. My chest was empty. The confirmation was clinical. The infidelity, the betrayal, the final collapse of my marriage. I looked at her car and felt nothing. The prediction had come true. The game was over. I had lost the peace, but I hadn't lost my composure. Then I looked at the black SUV parked directly beside it. The SUV was a newer model, sleek, dark, and utterly out of place next to the motel's dingy facade. It had personalized plates. I stepped closer, my mind still processing the fact the affair was real. I was already planning the logistics of the divorce. I was already assigning assets. The emotional core was dead. I just needed the exit strategy. I read the plate, JAG 477. The sight of those 7 characters was like a physical punch that didn't land on my stomach, but detonated inside my skull. It shattered the walls I had built against emotion. The nothing was instantly replaced by a crushing, absolute everything. Jag 477. It belonged to David Sterling. David wasn't just my friend, he was the foundation of my adult life. We met in college. He was the confident finance major and I was the meticulous engineering student. He married us. He was the godfather to our imaginary child. He was the reason I had my own logistics company. 6 years ago, when I left the corporate world, David wrote the first, most crucial check. He was my primary investor, my mentor, my sounding board for every high-stakes decision. He had a key to our house and he used it weekly for poker night, golf, or just coffee. He was the single most stable, trustworthy variable in my complicated world. He was the closest thing I had to a brother. And now his $120,000 SUV was parked next to my wife's sedan at the Sunburst Inn. The infidelity wasn't the tragedy. The tragedy was that the two people who were supposed to have my back, the one who slept beside me and the one who held my financial life in his hands, were now aligned against me. The betrayal was absolute, structural, and complete. It wasn't a mistake. It was a conspiracy. My hands, which had not trembled when I found Clara's car, were shaking violently when I pulled out my phone. I took multiple high-resolution photographs, the silver sedan, the black SUV, and the license plate. Proof wasn't enough. I needed overkill. I needed leverage. I retreated to my car. I didn't drive home. I sat in a strip mall parking lot and watched the time bleed away. The math was broken. The equations didn't balance. My two most trusted variables had merged into a singular, devastating threat. The next morning, I went to work. I logged onto David's company servers. As his primary logistics partner, I had backdoor access to some of his internal reporting and expense logs. I wasn't looking for flowers or hotel receipts. I was looking for patterns. If this was just a fling, the evidence would be sloppy and purely emotional. But David was a man obsessed with security, and Clara was meticulous. Their meeting spot, the shabby Sunburst Inn, was still the strangest part. David owned a dozen luxury condos he used for tax write-offs. Why the dirt motel? I started analyzing the variables of the affair. 1. Timing, always Tuesdays, 8:45 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Consistent. 2. Location, the Sunburst Inn. Cheap, cash only, no cameras. Discreet, but illogical for two wealthy people. 3. Communication. 0 traceable texts or calls. They communicated exclusively through encrypted messaging apps I couldn't crack. Too professional for a simple affair. Then I checked David's business travel log. Every time he was scheduled to be in Singapore or in London, it always coincided with a Tuesday meeting. He wasn't traveling, he was just unavailable. I stumbled across a bizarre expense report filed under a subsidiary, Project Nightingale. It was a series of small, intermittent transfers, never more than $5,000, routed through 3 different shell companies and ending in a bank in the Cayman Islands. The transaction date for the first Project Nightingale transfer? It matched the exact week Clara started her late-night financial compliance reports. The bottom fell out of the floor. This wasn't a cheap affair. This was something far more expensive, far more cold, and far more dangerous. The affair was a cover story. The Sunburst Inn wasn't a romantic rendezvous, it was a dead drop. They weren't exchanging kisses, they were exchanging assets or information. And David, the man who funded my business, was using my wife to execute a scheme that smelled like organized crime. I now had 2 primary problems. 1, Clara's betrayal of our life. 2, David's conspiracy that endangered my freedom and my company. The divorce could wait. My survival could not. I set the trap not with emotion, but with logistics. I set a meeting with David for Thursday morning, not in his office, but in my company's secure server room, the one place where I had the most control and the most surveillance. I went home Wednesday evening and found Clara on the couch watching a show. The fake domestic facility was chilling. "Clara," I said, my voice flat, "I need you to clear your schedule for Thursday afternoon. I've scheduled a final meeting with David about the new line of credit." She barely looked up from her tablet. "I can't," she responded. "I have a mandatory client dinner." I stated, "The financial integrity of my company is paramount. Your dinner is a variable I am eliminating." She finally looked up, her face tight with annoyance. "It's unprofessional, Ethan. Why are you doing this?" "Because," I said, meeting her eyes, "I am tired of untracked variables in my ecosystem."
Be there at 4 p.m., no excuses. She acquiesced with a sigh that felt practiced. She was already mentally calculating how to warn David. Good. The attempt to warn him was just another variable I was counting on. Thursday, 4 p.m. The server room was cold, loud with the white noise of cooling fans. I sat across a steel table from David. Clara stood slightly behind him, her arms crossed, projecting corporate loyalty. David started with the pleasantries. "Great to be here, Ethan. Just a quick check-in on the credit line, right?" "No, David," I said, sliding 3 pieces of paper across the table. "This isn't about the credit line. This is about variable alignment." The first sheet was a high-resolution photo of the silver sedan and the black SUV parked side by side at the Sunburst Inn. David's face remained neutral, a testament to his poker face. Clara's breath hitched. She stepped forward instantly. "Ethan, stop this! I told you I'd explain." "Quiet, Clara," I ordered, not raising my voice. "The explanation of who you sleep with is irrelevant. That is a personal betrayal, easily quantified and settled in court. I am not interested in the emotional noise." I slid the second sheet across. It was David's expense report showing the small, recurring transfer. "David, I noticed the Tuesday meetings coincided perfectly with your Project Nightingale transactions. I also found the $5,000 transfers routed through 3 shell companies to the Caymans." David finally cracked. His composure evaporated into a look of sheer, cold panic. He glanced at Clara, a silent, desperate plea for her to run the distraction play. Clara took the bait. "It was an affair, Ethan. We were meeting there because it was discreet. He didn't want his wife to know." I cut her off. I had built the most effective weapon. The truth, stripped of all emotion. "I do not care about your affair," I stated, tapping the third piece of paper, a printout of the satellite images I'd pulled of the Sunburst Inn, showing the large, unmarked white van always present on Tuesdays. "That motel is a checkpoint, Clara. You and David are not lovers. You are partners in money laundering. You were meeting with the cash exchange contact. The affair was the pre-approved cover story, in case I found your car." Clara didn't deny the financial crime. She didn't even argue the point. She simply collapsed, collapsing onto the steel table. "It wasn't supposed to involve you, Ethan," she whispered, her voice tight with real fear, not fake remorse. "It was just one clean $10 million transfer. David brought me in because of my finance background." David slammed his hand on the table. "You idiot! You were supposed to let him think it was the affair." "The affair was a 5-point deduction on my credit score," I said, standing up. "This, however, is a 30-year sentence. Your greatest error, David, was not sleeping with my wife. Your greatest error was believing your own hype. You preached security, but you left 1,000 small breadcrumbs leading straight to my company's liability." I looked at Clara, who was now sobbing, not over me, but over the ruined plan. "You were willing to let me believe you cheated, an easy, forgivable failure to cover up a felony that would have wiped out my business and made me a co-conspirator by proximity." The emotional betrayal was severe, but the structural betrayal was apocalyptic. They didn't just break my heart, they tried to frame me for their crime. My next moves were immediate and entirely logistical. "The meeting is over," I announced, pulling a document from my internal jacket pocket. "Clara, you have exactly 30 minutes to clear your personal belongings. The locks are being changed tonight. You will go to your sister's. You will not contact me or David. Your lawyer will be in touch." I turned to David, who was breathing hard, trying to calculate his escape. "David, you had me," I said, pointing to the photo of the cars. "I was ready to accept the infidelity. But your greed and your arrogance left a trail of data that I, the logician, could not ignore." "You can't prove this," he spat. "It's circumstantial." "I can prove that you and Clara conspired to use my company's resources to facilitate transactions involving a shell company used by a known cartel. I have the microtransactions. I have your voice on this meeting recording. I have the satellite images of the transfer point. And I have every single email regarding Project Nightingale, which you foolishly backed up on a shared network drive." I pressed the call button on my phone.
I have already sent all the evidence, time-stamped and logged, to a federal prosecutor I contacted 2 hours ago. They are now officially aware of the money laundering operation you orchestrated with my wife. You are finished. David and Clara were gone within the hour. The arrests were clean, quick, and silent. They went down not for a sordid affair, but for a meticulously tracked, multi-million-dollar federal crime. The scandal was huge, but my involvement was minimal. I was the concerned, betrayed partner who uncovered the crime. The math had saved me. I did lose the house. I lost the investment, but I gained something far more valuable than either of those things: clarity. I don't miss the drama. I don't miss the game of translating silence into stories. I like waking up in a house where the calendar on the wall is mine, and every plan written on it shows up when it says it will. I had prepared for the pain of losing my wife. I had planned for the cost of the divorce, but I could never have prepared for the profound relief of knowing that the cold, calculating detachment that killed my marriage was the exact thing that saved my life from becoming a federal indictment. I saw my wife's car at the motel and felt nothing. But when I saw that license plate, I realized the stakes were higher than love. They were my freedom. And my refusal to trust emotion over data gave me the only clean exit possible. The greatest mistake they made was thinking I was blinded by jealousy. They mistook my methodical silence for weakness. They should have known better. I work in logistics. And nothing is more satisfying than a threat that is not only eliminated, but is also delivered directly to the correct address. The Sunburst Inn was the end of my marriage, but JAG 477 was the beginning of my freedom. And that is the only metric that matters. If it were you, what would you have done differently? Let me know in the comment box. If you like this story, kindly like, share, and subscribe to encourage us to bring you more great stories.